Today we're going to talk about understanding trig ratios. Trigonometric ratios, or trig ratios, are defined by their relative positions with respect to an acute angle in a right triangle. The trigonometric ratios are shown in this table below. The sine ratio, which is abbreviated as SIN, but we call it sine, says that the sine of theta is this symbol here. It's a Greek letter, and it just refers to an angle measure. So the sine of theta is equal to the leg opposite of theta over the hypotenuse. So we also abbreviate that as O for opposite over H for hypotenuse. Cosine, which is abbreviated as COS, cosine of theta is equal to the leg adjacent to theta over the hypotenuse. And the tangent ratio is abbreviated as TAN. So the tangent of theta is equal to the ratio of the leg opposite of theta over the leg adjacent. So for example 1 here, we're going to look at this right triangle and we're going to give the correct trigonometric ratio. So looking at R in the first case, the sine of R. So that means R is my theta, or the angle that I'm looking for. Sine is the ratio of the leg opposite of that given angle. So this is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. And this is my hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. And we also can label right now the adjacent side, which I usually label last. I usually label my opposite. So looking at whatever angle I'm needing to find. In this case, I'm referring to R. So I'm going to look across from that angle R to find the opposite side. Then I'm going to look across from the right angle to find the hypotenuse. And then the last side is my adjacent. So now I'm going to look up here, and it says that sine is the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So another thing that we write when we talk about this, we can write so ka toa. I usually write it like that. Some other teachers like to write it as the ratio, which is also really helpful. So sine is O over H, or opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is A over H, and tangent is O over A. So when I look at the sine of R, I'm looking for the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse, or 5 over 13. Now, if I need to find the cosine of R, I'm going to find the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, or A over H. So adjacent, I have labeled as 12. I know the hypotenuse is 13. And lastly, I have tangent of R. Tangent is O over A, or opposite over adjacent. the opposite side is 5, and the adjacent side is 12. The next 3 questions all refer to angle T. So I'm actually going to erase my markings because I'm going to have to refer to angle T now. So now angle T is the angle that I'm looking at. And I'm going to label the opposite side. I'm going to label the hypotenuse. And I'm going to label the adjacent side. So sine is still opposite over hypotenuse, but now that I'm referring to T, the opposite side of T is 12, but the hypotenuse is still 13. Cosine is still adjacent over hypotenuse, but this time our adjacent side is labeled with a 5. And lastly, tangent of T. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. My opposite side is 12, and my adjacent side is 5. If we know the degree measure of an acute angle in the triangle, we can find a decimal of the ratio of the sides by using our calculator. And we're going to make sure that our calculator is in degree mode. So I'm going to open up my graphing calculator. And to make sure it's in degree mode, I'm going to click on Mode. Then I'm going to need to scroll down 2 times. Right now, radian is highlighted in black. So you're going to have to go to the right and then hit Enter to make it in degree mode. To get out of this, you're going to hit second quit or second mode to get to quit to get back to your normal screen. Now we're going to find where sine, cosine, and tangent are on our calculator. Sine is right here, S-I-N. So we're going to click sine, and then we're going to type 21. That is the ratio of the sides. Granted, it's a decimal, but we're going to round this to the nearest hundredth. So to round it to the nearest hundredth, I'm going to write down a few decimal places. I'm going to write down 4. And then I'm going to round. When I look at the hundredths place, tenths, hundredths, that means I need to look at the thousandths place and see if it changes my 5. And it does. So that means it's about 0.36, excuse me. Now we're going to find cosine. Cosine is next to sine to the right. And I'm going to type in 30. When I get this decimal, again, I'm going to write down about 4 decimal places, 0.8660. And the directions tell me to round to the hundredths place. So I'm going to check to see if I need to round up or keep it the same. And I do need to round up. So it's about 0.87. And lastly, we're going to find tangent. Tangent of 65 is 2.1445. Here is my thousandths place. This time, because it is a 4, it keeps the other 4 the same. It does not round it up. And that is how you can understand some trig ratios.